I'm really excited about the stuff I'm going to share today. Mainly because, getting prepared for this presentation, a lot of the times when you're on our side, remember that whole thing I was talking about with principles, a lot of the times you're trying to take what you know and make it teachable, and they don't teach that at Lawton MacArthur. So you have to just kind of teach yourself, and over time you get better at something. Maybe it's Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours. But I did I think because of the topic of this session, which is the new psychology of success, I just want to make sure y'all can see the slides there. This is something that's important to me, and you'll understand why. Because this is the video that I would give to my children, right? Like, if this was on video and something happened to me, this is what, like Jay said, Braden's here, his son. This is just something that, over time, understanding this really is the difference between being able to model success. And this is my belief anyway. And so, modeling people that are successful is very obviously important. It is a principle. We hear it all the time. But I really want to challenge everybody to understand the principles of success today. And we're going to go over the new psychology of success and some of the elements that not only are going to help you, but are just going to help you be able to understand and be able to translate to other people what makes you successful. Everybody here is obviously tremendously successful, or you wouldn't be here. Hopefully you'll be able to, as J. Abraham would say, you will imprison these principles so that you have them forever, and really go back to your marketplace, to your family, and be able to help other people, which I know a lot of people get a lot out of, being able to go back to their marketplace and sit down. I know I surely do. And so I hope that this really helps you understand those things. So we're going to start with a short little video. I've always been fascinated with successful people. It would be I would end up at the lake or somewhere, cornered somebody, asking them a bunch of questions. And this is the one person, if I could corner them, I don't think there's a price I wouldn't pay. So let's start with this video here.
Rock, verify range, go.
Range green.
First stage tank pressing up.
A well thought out critique of whatever you're doing is as valuable as gold.
That third failure in a row, did you think, I need to pack this in?
Never.
Why not?
I don't ever give up. I mean, I'd have to be dead or completely incapacitated.
8 weeks later, Musk bet the company on another flight.
We have liftoff.
And this time around, everything worked.
Perfect.
If that fourth launch hadn't worked, that would have been it. We would have not had the resources to mount the trip.
Successful entrepreneurs probably come in all sizes, shapes, and flavors. Some of the things I've described already, I think, are very important. I think really an obsessive nature with respect to the quality of the product. Really liking what you do, whatever area that you get into. Given that, even if you're the best, there's always a chance of failure. So I think it's important that you really like whatever you're doing. If you don't like it, life is too short.
When my brother and I were starting our first company, instead of getting an apartment, we just rented a small office and we slept on the couch. We had just one computer, so the website was up during the day and I was coding at night. 7 days a week, all the time.
You just keep going and get it done.
Put $90 billion, like 50 years worth of breaks into solar and wind, to Solyndra and Fisker and Tesla and Enter1. I mean, I had a friend who said, you don't just pick the winners and losers, you pick the losers.
I'm available 24/7 to help solve issues. Call me 3 a.m. on a Sunday morning, I don't care.
But his bets paid off.
We didn't just repay the principal, we actually repaid it with interest and a bonus payment. So ultimately, the U.S. taxpayer actually made a profit of over $20 million on this loan.
Work like hell. I mean, you just have to put in, 80 to 100 hour weeks every week. If other people are putting in 40-hour work weeks and you're putting in 100-hour work weeks, you will achieve in 4 months what it takes them a year to achieve. A natural human tendency is wishful thinking. So a challenge for entrepreneurs is to say, well, what's the difference between really believing in your ideals and sticking to them versus pursuing some unrealistic dream that doesn't actually have merit. Your product or service needs to be much better. It can't be a little bit better. So all those things improve the odds of success.
I think my sort of drive to get it done is somewhat disconnected from hope, enthusiasm, or anything else.
So how many people have heard of Elon Musk before that video? Raise your hand. How many people haven't? Raise your hand. So this is his new book, an amazing book. I would say this is probably top 2 books that I listened to this year. Number 1 book if it's on this topic. I mean, this guy has done so much, and I mean, he started Tesla. I'm not going to go into too much of his detail. If you want any really detail, you can get with Steve Cantor. He's in the back. The reason I say that is he actually mailed me something, I think like 3 years ago when he saw this guy. He like ripped it out of a magazine and put it in an envelope and sent it to me. But Tesla, he started a company, Solar City, and he started a company, SpaceX. That's after he was part of his first company that sold for a ridiculous amount of money. Then he went into PayPal. His most recent endeavor is he wants to colonize Mars. So he thinks that we should have multiple planetary civilizations in order to help humanity. That's his thought. Like, so today, it's really about thinking big, right? This is my family, my wife, my 2 sons, Cash and Crew, got another one on the way who will be here in December. I was actually sitting down with my wife in preparation for this presentation. Woods has been coming to town. I've spent a lot of time with him, spent a lot of time with Karn. We have a lot going on, trying to get prepared. So really what's happened is I'm a morning person, but it's like flipped. I'm like up till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning because I have all this energy and all these things that I can't get out of my mind that I'm so excited about. And I've been spending a lot of time talking about, what makes somebody successful. And so I was telling my wife, she said, well, what do you got going on Saturday? I said, I have to get ready for my presentation for EGS. And she said, what are you going through these books? I was going through a tub of basically photos on, digital photos, old computers. This is actually a gas station that's next to my old elementary school. It's called Hop and Sack. It used to be called CNC. And that red S10 with a lawnmower in the back and a blower, that's where I started. I moved a lot in Oklahoma when I was 15 in a different truck. I wrecked it. But I mowed grass, and I won't get into the story, but I ended up living with people that lived there, and a lot of people helped me shape, my beliefs. So me and my wife were talking about it. This was a picture I ran across. This is actually, I'm not sure, I remember the day, but it's like within the first month that me and Jay rehooked up. Like, he was in my music appreciation class. I was at the lake and saw his boat. He gave me a ride, and luckily somebody snapped the photo, right? But this was a boat that Jay had. It was a 35-foot fountain, and for me back then, that was something that I totally just didn't even believe was possible. I was blown away. Never seen a boat like that. I mean, I remember, it was probably 6 months before, I was thinking if I could get a Sea-Doo, right? And this guy rolls out in a boat, and his speakers are worth, 2 Sea-Doos. That's really what got me interested in real estate. Just blew my mind. But I found my journal. I started going through it. This was a journal entry my first month in real estate. And since Jay had a 35-foot fountain, I drew a picture of a 40-foot fountain. It would have been 42-foot. And the funny thing is I spelled psychology with an S. It says random because this is the second page, but I am really interested in psychology and spelling lessons, just joking. I always did that just in case someone found my journal. They would know that I knew I couldn't spell. I held an open house this weekend and picked up plenty of buyer leads. I want to become #1 in real estate. I believe it is going to take some extreme discipline, but I can do it. Goal, 40-foot fountain. And I had journal entries in there from 1996 where I drew a picture of a Rolex and said, my goal is to save $97 this month, right? So it was pretty interesting. That's my 35-foot fountain. I ended up getting that boat. that Jay had that inspired me from going from where I was to where I wanted to go. It was in under 36 months. I bought the boat, didn't even know how to drive the boat, drove the boat in the rain on the back of a truck to Lake Texoma, and had to ask a guy who had the same boat to take me out to show me how to drive it. And it wasn't easy. I mean, it had 2 engines. It looked like, it wasn't easy for me. I don't really think, in theory, I ever learned how to drive the boat because I never backed it in. But I had it, and I paid for it for a long time. But yeah, that's again, that was one thing. Most of the things that I'm going to talk about today, for where I learned them, is I learned them at the lake from other people. I'm by no means an authority, just a really good student. And I really think the stuff we're going to cover today is going to have a huge impact on you. But this was something that was in my journal, October 14th, 2000. Don't ever stop. Help others do what's right. You then will have everything you dream. I really believe that. And it was weird because I don't know how many people in here journal. Like, that was one of the first times I had ever gone back and read it. And to be honest with you, I don't journal every day, but I just journal randomly, and whatever's on my mind, then I just kind of throw it away or throw it aside and then go back and do it. And it was interesting to go through. What was interesting is it was my belief. And my belief is I truly have a problem because I believe in everybody. Anyone else have that problem? I really truly believe that, that anybody's capable of anything. The point of sharing the story with my wife and going through these photos was, my wife said to me, as I'm sharing this, and my son's walking up and wanting juice. It's in the morning. We're just having a conversation. I'm going through some photos. And my wife says to me a comment, yeah, you would have been successful no matter what you did. And I really said to her, that's not true, babe. It's not true. Because at the time, one of my beliefs was I didn't invest in myself. And I don't know if I believed I couldn't afford it. I don't know if I believed that the investment wouldn't pay off. But one of the biggest things that, even thinking when I was in the back of the room thinking, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go up, we're going to do this, then I'm going to go on stage and do mine. And then I had another aha. I'm like, oh, there's another piece of evidence that, all of these truths are truths. Because when Jay told me that I need to go to the conference, and I told him I was, and then a week later he was there and asked me what time my plane arrived, and I didn't buy my plane ticket, and he said to me, I thought you said you were going to come, and I did, but the only thing that made me not do it was a disempowering belief that I felt like I couldn't afford it. He helped me change. It was a lot of resistance, but he helped me overcome the resistance and my negative thought as it related to believing in myself. And that one's, now there's a lot of things I believe, but there was other areas I needed to grow. So I believe in everybody in this room. And what we're going to do is we're going to really unpack the idea of the new psychology of success. So you're going to want to get your pens out. There's going to be some good notes. The study of how we believe, of our beliefs are related to our goals, effort, thoughts, and decisions in nearly every part of our life. We're going to cover this. One of the things that was really awesome for me was to understand the relationship between belief and goals. And that's really, really important. There's 2 types of mindsets. We're going to cover those mindsets. And those are the mindsets that guide our beliefs, that either limit our potential or enable our success. So it's very important for you to understand that your belief in what your potential is fundamentally at the core reason of the effort that you're going to put into something. And so we're going to cover that. And the main thing that I always like, and when I'm listening to a speaker, is to really get a takeaway of a process. So we're going to talk about the simple 4-step process to help maximize your full potential. So is everybody ready? All right, good. So I do want to say I also did pleasurize one person. I'm going to say that first when we get to the slide. His name is Brett Jennings. He probably gave me the core nucleus that really created a lot of my interest in this presentation, and I thank him for that. He's a tremendous guy, friend, and I like him a lot. Little inside joke. So for the rest of this presentation, I want you to think about 2 people that you know. I want you to think about the most successful person you know, and I want you to think about somebody who's just really, really having trouble being successful. I don't want to call the most, because then I don't want you to label this person in your mind as the most unsuccessful person. But let's just say they're not having the success they currently desire. Because next time you see them, you're going to be like, yep, you're the guy I was thinking about when I thought about the most unsuccessful. I don't want to label your friends for you, because I understand the power of the mind. So let's get started. So you have belief, right? Everybody have a good idea of what belief is? No hands? I can't see any hands. Raise your hand high if you think you know what belief is. Everybody defines belief differently, right? So what happens is if we define belief differently and it means something different to us, then what we believe is different, like our goals. There's a relationship. And so what happens is we have a belief system. And our belief system is basically something we're born with. They're either formed, we nurse them, they're challenged, they're changed, and the most important ones, they're extinguished, right? So how many people have ever had a belief that has been changed? Raise your hand. All right. So we form our beliefs because of our family. That, to me, this is what's most important for everybody here outside of your business. If going forward, if you don't do anything, like from all the research I did, like I think that this is probably the most important thing for our children. And you'll see why. But as we talk about those two friends, just think about, and once you have an awareness, you'll be able to hear it. But all of our family around us, we impact their beliefs. We impact. We get our beliefs from our friends, which I was sharing with you how Jay, challenged my belief and helped me extinguish and change my beliefs. And I think that there's some truth to why they say, show me your friends, I'll tell you your future. Our colleagues and our cultures. How many people used to believe in Santa Claus? Raise your hand. All right? There was a book when I was doing, I read probably 8 different books, 9 books. One book was called The Believing Brain, and it was, Tony Robbins, it was his #1 book he read this year. He was talking about the believing brain, and so I went through the whole book, and it was funny because they were making relationship to how people act when they believe in ghosts. I mean, doesn't that sound funny that some people believe in ghosts? Maybe it doesn't to you, but it does to me. That's my belief. How about monsters? Anyone in here believe in monsters? No. So it's a fact. It's irrefutable. In fact, we used to believe, that the world was flat, right? But what happens is with our beliefs, we gain knowledge. And when we gain knowledge, we get truth, right? So what happens is, like for Jay, when I made the investment to go, he didn't change my belief. He suspended my belief that it was a good investment. And I went at the moment that I felt like, okay, I really should go. And then I had a different experience and my belief changed, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But people used to believe the world was flat. Do you think that belief had any impact on the goals of people in general? Right? So in the mastermind, I told, and I'll just say it again just because I'm up here and have the platform, I believe, people who are currently selling $3 million in real estate commissions, not volume. I think there's going to be people out there that are going to be selling 10 million, 20 million. That's just what I believe, right? So my beliefs are big, and I think they're bigger than that. The big thing is sometimes I get embarrassed if I'm around the wrong person because I'll think, man, they're probably thinking, who the heck does this guy, who does he think he is to believe that? And so my beliefs are big. I think that you have to believe big to think big, right? There's a book called I was in Austin and I was with the top agent, amazing agent. He's netting just under $1 million in real estate commissions, Chris Waters, and he was like, man. I mean, me and John Kitchens were at his home, and he was like, man, have you read The Magic of Thinking Big? And I was like, yeah, a long time ago. I think I finished it. I'm not sure, but I went back through it, and I talked to Jay, and he was like, hey, have you finished The Magic of Thinking Big? Jay was like, no, you were talking to Chris Waters, weren't you? I'm going to go through it. And I saw him, first thing I saw him at EGS, he said, dude, I just went through that book. I knew I read it somewhere. It's amazing. And it is. If you haven't read it, these are all things, the way that you think, the way that you believe, all of that stuff that's out there has an impact on where you go. Because we have limiting beliefs. Does everybody know what a limiting belief is? We have limiting beliefs. My mindset is that when I hear a limiting belief, I believe it's a lie. Right? I believe it's a lie. And I'm in search for the truth. Does everybody agree that we're in search for the truth to some level? Right? So I believe limiting beliefs are lies. And we have what we call as empowering beliefs. And I believe empowering beliefs empower you. They give you the energy that we'll talk about later. So you have these two beliefs. An example of limiting beliefs is you can detect them by language patterns, right? You can hear them. So let's go through a few examples. Limiting beliefs, I can't. When I met, I know Brian Moses is probably the most famous. When I think of I can't, I see Brian Moses' face. Not because he can't, but because he is the epitome of the person that hates that word, right? And his stories that he's shared on bringing an awareness to this one phrase that people say. I mean, you even say, I could be reading the book and then still say it, right? Like I had things that happened, things ran over. I had to go do several things. The guy asked me a question, and I said, man, I can't do that. I have to do this. And I literally caught myself in the act and said, I really could do both if I would have just done this or that. So it's a really good awareness. I don't have time. Now, this might be not in the element of time today, but whatever it is, maybe someone thinks they're getting, they're older, they're past their earning years, which I totally disagree with. But they think for whatever reason, somebody's, it would take me too much time to catch up to them. Whatever the element of time is, the reality is we all have the same amount of time. And so ultimately, we know the potential is limitless and time doesn't have an effect because people have already demonstrated what they've been able to do with the time they were given. Does that make sense? So it's not that you don't have time. It's being effective with your time. I tried that before. I can't afford it. That was me. That was me. I won't lie. That won't work in my market. I'll just share with you a real story. One of the biggest successes that we've made in the brokerage was me overcoming a limiting belief that I thought I already knew something. And I had seen that before. There was a process that was in place that I had used for years that I had abandoned for what I thought was a better process. And so when it came up, I wasn't open to believing that it could help. But because of a lot of things, I really think it had a lot to do with me preparing for this. When the opportunity was there, I saw it. I saw my mindset. I saw the way that I was holding myself back. And I swear to you, when I went back and looked at it, it was not even remotely close to the meaning that I gave the word. Like it was a tool that I used to use, and I was like, I use that. We don't use that anymore. There's this and that. And it literally had an impact. I think Jeff told us it had an impact almost by 250-something% on our appointment set immediately. And if I would have not taken that first step because of my limiting beliefs that won't work, I already know that. Does that make sense? Yes or yes? There's only two options there. All right, empowering beliefs. The past is not the. There is always a way if I'm committed. The one thing that I always say, I'm not going to say where I got it, but every solution has a problem. The two things that I always say is, in my personal affirmations, they're not in any order, but it just happens to be number one, is I say I face challenges head on. And something that I'm always saying when something comes across my desk and for a moment I don't have clarity, right? And I don't know, maybe there's doubt, unclear. I just start with empowering the situation by saying every solution has a problem. Every problem has a solution. That's awesome. I'm a little nervous if you can't tell. No failures, only outcomes. This is going to be huge for you guys to understand. If I can't, I must. If I must, I can. I create my own reality. If I'm confused, I'm about to learn something. Brian Moses says that to me all the time. It's so amazing. And he believes it. I don't know if I literally have lived this probably 4 times this year. He says, dude, I don't know what's going on, but I know that we're about to have a breakthrough. You know, how many people, when they don't know what's going on and they're confused, they like look at that as something that's causing, a bad thing. He's tying it to a positive meaning for him. And I think that's just an amazing thing that you have to become aware. Because ultimately in the power of choice, you have a choice whether you use limiting beliefs or whether you use empowering beliefs. So, the beliefs become the prism you see the world. And what I want to do is I want to go to what I call is an awareness test. Everybody got 1 minute to take a test with me? And I want you to be honest. And here's the only disclaimer. If you've seen the test, for the benefit of the person, do not tell them about the test. Do not tell them the answer. Okay? Everyone ready? Watch your screen.
This is an awareness test. How many passes does the team in white make?
Go!
How many?
The answer is 13. But did you see the moonwalking bear?
Go!
Now, I got to see your hands. How many people did not see the moonwalking bear? Be serious. Okay? That just proves to you in this book, it's How to Think is the book. I don't know if I'm using the title right, but it's what I'm listening to now. And it talks about our brain is like a computer and it processes information. And it was given to me by Gary, one of our speakers today, Gary. But I won't get into it. But the point is that some of my takeaways from the book is, we're just processing information based upon our input, right? So what I put in you, you were only able to process what was input. Would everyone agree with that statement? So if that bear it could be a number of things. It could have been opportunity, right? But you're not looking at it if you are processing, that won't work. I can't. I've already done that. I can't afford it. So you don't even see the bear, right? Because you're naturally just processing. And this is just how, this is just a principle. It's already proven. You didn't see the bear. If you saw the bear, then I'll give you a different test. But you're processing things in your life that you believe are true based upon the information that you've downloaded. And so it's very important for you guys is to start, if you're going to make a change in your belief, and I agree. Everything I come back to is believing. Even when I try to challenge it, it's like, but belief. Like every time you introduce that one truth, everything changes. If somebody believes, it overcomes this obstacle, this obstacle. If someone believes, then it's this. And so it's really understanding the power of belief. I do believe the best gift you can give your children is having an awareness and the limiting beliefs and empowering beliefs. I do. Would anyone agree with that? I did more to not disappoint somebody. Me and Jay, I've been in the room, and me and Jay are just not the type of people that you motivate by fear. We literally said this to somebody. I don't care what it is. There's not a number. It could be literally 7 figures. and we would walk away if the conversation was fear motivated. Like if you were trying to motivate us to do something by fear. You could motivate us to do something by opportunity, but not fear, right? And so it's just that negative connotation with your children, you know, if they can't or they can. Those are things that I believe in their language patterns, especially for me, that's going to be important, right? Because I don't want to limit to where they put out their effort based upon me not seeing the moonwalking bear when they're around me, or the friend or my colleague. If you're really going to lead people at the base level, and if the truth is belief is everything, and we have beliefs that either empower us or they actually limit us, then you either are accepting the person when they say it as truth, or you're calling them out that it's a lie. Does that make sense? And it's your responsibility in the moment to hold everybody, even yourself, in account. Accountability for yourself. And I think you need to be accountable to your beliefs and ask yourself, well, is that true? Is that really true? All right, so 2 things I learned from my parents that shaped my mindset. This is my dad taught me to believe in anything was possible. I didn't know that. My dad was, he was sick, and I wanted to give him a card, and I was trying to write it out. I sat down like 3 times, and my dad moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma when I was 11 actually, and lived there ever since until he moved to Dallas. I think he moved there sometime when I was 15. So he used to commute back, and I remember my dad taking me to a storage unit, and there was like 20 chairs, and there was 3 people, and the guy who was the presenter had arthritis so bad that his fingers were permanently stuck in a certain position. It was some type of really bad arthritis, but he was the presenter on how to become a millionaire in a storage unit in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And my dad bought everything. When he was in the military, made him stop selling Amway because he was recruiting so many of the soldiers that it was disrupting the armies. He was getting people to believe they could make more money in Amway, but he was in the military. And this natural, you know, I always said to Jay, I said if I didn't have to ever work again, I would go just prove network marketing. And I would write a book, not because I want to do network marketing, but because I believe you can do whatever. And if somebody gives you a vehicle and you treat it right and you follow and you model and you use the success principles, I believed anything was possible. Because I don't think anybody can do something that somebody else can't. That's just my belief within reason. So that my dad put that in me. Whether I'm going to end up with a room full of water filters or not is yet to be determined. But I did know that you got to get good at sales, so I don't think I'd get stuck with any. But I got into prepaid legal, and my dad, 2 people, I'd always put my dad in my downline first, right? And, you know, the funny thing is when I would stop doing it, I literally saw 8 months later my dad in a van. And I hadn't spoke to him in weeks. He was in a van going to Las Vegas to the international conference. I had put him in. I'm the one that brought it to his living room, right? I hadn't talked about it, done anything. I just saw him with one of the guys. And, you know, he was just the guy that if you kind of pointed him in the right direction. So that's what my dad taught me, is that he really, I remember when we left the storage unit, he told me we were going to have a swimming pool. He was like, yep, once I get this many people, we're going to get a swimming pool. We're going to do this. I was like, yes. We didn't get the pool, but he believed it. He drove me by in Tulsa, Oklahoma, some big houses. I wish I knew exactly where they were. They were huge. I mean, they were the biggest house that I had ever seen. And I'm sure that people were knowing now they were probably with an oil and gas company. But what my dad told me was that they set goals. So I believed, if you look at my journal, I believed if I set goals that I could, and I wrote them down, that I could accomplish, right? How many people set goals? Raise your hand. My dad told, two things, most impactful. He told me to write, that they did that, so I wrote them down. But what is your goal? Is your goal to, launch a rocket into outer space? Is your goal to, colonize Mars? Like, who has goals that big, right? And how does somebody have those goals that are big, and why should their goals be bigger than yours? Or it's your goal. I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong, but, is your potential holding you back on what you think is possible? And is it because of your goals, or is it because of your beliefs? That's really the question. Do your beliefs have to change for your goals to change, right? My dad gave me the Think and Grow Rich. That was the first book I read cover to cover. I read that book and How to Win Friends and Influence People. Those were the two books that he gave me. And ultimately, at the core, you can see how it wasn't the book, it was the way that I thought. The things that I believed were possible were affected by the few things that I pointed out here. My mom, this is my mom. My mom was a command sergeant major in the United States military. And my mom taught me, I called my mom one day, and, she drilled it down for me. And she said, Mike, it sounds to me like everything you're talking about is not in your control. And so, in the toughest moments, I really don't worry. That's not my process. My process is verbally what I shared with you now. It wasn't then, but I do believe every solution has a problem. And that will be my process where I start going forward. But I'm able to have no anxiety. I'm not paralyzed. I don't care what the terms are. I get straight to my own internal process, and I drill it down to what's in my control. What's in my control, right? She taught me one other thing, it was about, I was telling her, she just always was a good ear to a person to call, because she had commanded, she had led so many soldiers, she had done so many things, so she just understood the people element of business, and that's probably where, in all fairness, my confession is my frustration came from, because I didn't know how to get these people to believe. I didn't know what I didn't know back then, and so I was telling her, and I had gotten worked up about a certain situation, and I don't get worked up easily, and so the first thing she told me was that I needed to quit telling the story, because my mind did not know if it was true or not true. The power of I was working myself up. And so we don't go to the past except to learn and teach the future, but the past is in the past, right? So like telling somebody what happened and all those things that's just creating negative energy. This is the plagiarized word that like literally changed the way that it's been on my mind at a very high level for a long time. And one day, Brett Jennings told me that the gap between belief and knowing is effort. Effort is the energy that it takes to overcome resistance. You may have heard me say that before. Effort. And I'm telling you, like, if you really dissect the word effort, you can go, it's a success principle. You can really see a lot of amazing people that define effort. And, I used it in my vocabulary, but I never really unpacked the idea of what effort meant, right? Like, it's what's the definition? What is it? I have heard people say, who's ever heard someone say, effort in equals results out? Right? Energy is emotion is energy in motion. So when you believe something and you're trying to get to knowing something, right? So like the difference between belief and knowing is, let's say I believe I can do something. Once I've done it, I know I can do it. Now there's things that I hit resistance in my gap of trying to get there. The difference between me and you is, if you see what I wrote in 2012, I don't stop. My mental model for life is, I'm not worried there's going to be a problem, there's going to be failure. I already anticipate it. I just don't know what it is. I just need to know, what is the problem? Is that the right problem? And what are all the possible solutions to the problem? And what directly is in my wheelhouse that I change the outcome, that I have responsibility for, that I can do, that has the biggest leverage on removing that problem? Does that make sense? Yes or yes? So the gap is belief in knowing. The gap, in between the gap. As your belief grows, your effort grows. But your belief is diminishing as you're exerting energy. So if you have exerted energy and you don't have an experience to get to knowing, to be able to say, well, now I know this is truth, because that's all you're trying to do is get through the lies that you're telling yourself so that you can muster up the effort to overcome the resistance. But a lot of people give the meaning to resistance as failure, to confusion. And the mindset that you have when you're living in the gap of effort is where most people fail, because they can't win what I would call the mind game, the head game, everything. This is just a body. It's all in our head. And so if you have the right understanding with effort, that when Jay says, my favorite part of strategy is lessons learned, it's because he is in love with the process of learning. It's how he views intelligence. He doesn't view intelligence as something, as nothing else but a positive. So he puts a lot of effort and expects resistance, and that gratifies him and me, because we now have knowledge of knowing, well, that was a dumb idea. And there's a lot of people that like us to go tell them what the dumb ideas were without putting the effort, right? But then we also have belief in knowing that, hey, you're going to have to go through some dumb ideas to get to a good one. And so this effort thing, it's worth it. Because the more that I do it, the more success I have, even in the doubt that I'm going to be successful, as long as I keep believing, right? So as your belief expands, your knowing expands. As your knowing expands, your belief grows. Does that make sense? And as your belief grows, what happens to your knowing? It grows too. So I start with, in my control, some of this stuff is learned. I read Good Strategy, Bad Strategy, this book, The 7 Lords of Strategy. I mean, I really feel like the core is, the biggest threat anybody has in here is not taking the time, no matter what it is. When we talk about principles, any confusion, any resistance is really drilling down to, what is the problem? Is this really the problem? What are all the ways to solve the problem? Get really clear on where to focus your effort. Where to focus your effort. And don't try to do everything, because that's the opposite of focus, right? Really focus on the effort, on the things that you control that's related to the problem. So I started with seeking information. That's where I start all the time. As you could see earlier on the stages, there's the seeking. A lot of you are here. You embody these, right? It's just like working out. You want to continue, because it's not something that if you quit doing, you have forever, right? We're reading books, going to conferences. My effort, how many people wake up early to put out extra effort when they're trying to accomplish something, or maybe when they're trying to get clear, right? See, because when you're trying to get, I don't care, for the person that gets it, it's worth it. For you that don't, it's not, I'll send you the video. But for the people that are following me right now, it's important, because this was a huge get for me. Like the enemy of fear, of doubt, of uncertainty, the enemy is action. That's the enemy. Because the minute you take action, you start getting clearer. You start to get less doubt. The enemy of fear is just acting. And the people who don't want to act is because they're in fear of failing. Or something negative, disempowering. But if you look at failure, like Darren Hardy said, is the process. It's the process you have to go through to get to success, and then you have to act and do something. You can't be indecisive you have to make a decision, right? So we've heard, eat that frog, you know. Whatever it is that's on your plate that's holding you back, where you're unclear, you got to really get focused on, what are my disempowering beliefs? What's the story that I'm telling myself? What's really, really, really the problem? Where do I need to internally start? Because I'm the one running the show. I'm the one I'm over me. It's in me. What lies am I telling myself? Where do I really need to make my adjustments to my goals? Where do I need to exert the effort? Where do I need to align my energy? Where do I need to focus on the outcome that I have control over, not worry about what's not in my control? Does that make sense? So you have to take massive action. I don't care if it's losing weight. I don't care if it's getting in shape. By the core definition, success is a direct product of extra effort. Period. And that effort doesn't mean doing the things that you don't want to do, because if that's what you're hearing, you're not hearing what I'm saying. No one said you have to do anything. You have to do something, but I didn't say anything. I think there's a solution to every problem, and if there's something you don't want to do, then let's really get clear on it, but you got to put effort into getting that clarity. Does that make sense? Someone's going to hear that, oh, he's saying make more phone calls. I hate this presentation. No, what I'm saying is, if you don't like to make phone calls and that's truly the problem, then find the guy that's not making phone calls and put out the effort to find out what you need to do to stop making phone calls. Does that make sense? What is necessary to change a person is to change his awareness of himself. So that's my only challenge to you, is to become very aware, become aware of your beliefs, become aware of what's limiting, become aware of what's empowering. You have to believe big to think big. Ultimately, there's truth. We're all in this to get to the truth. It's the bottom line. But what you have to understand is that you have truth and you have beliefs. And where they intersect is knowledge. So, your beliefs become your thoughts. Your thoughts become your words. Your words become your actions. Your actions become your habits. Your habits become your values. And your values become your destiny. So we're going to get to the main part of this. And I don't say main part. We're going to speed up a little bit just so that we make sure we're on track. I'm going to go through this mindset. Out of everything that I said, I'd move this book to the top. And then once you're done with it, I'd pay it forward and give it to somebody. Or just buy 2 when you get them. We don't have them, but if you do, buy 2, because when you read it, I'm telling you now, you're going to want to give it to somebody. But it was weird because I found this quote last night. I added this quote last night, Brett Jennings, was no matter what your ability is, effort is what ignites it and turns it into accomplishment. This word effort just appears everywhere now. I don't know why. I do know why. There's 2 types of mindsets that guide our beliefs that either limit our potential or enable our success. Okay? We have a fixed mindset. Her book comes down to basically these 2 things. The mindsets are literally built up of a collection of your belief systems. And there's 2, growth mindset and fixed mindset. So a fixed mindset desires to look smart, therefore has they have a tendency and a hard time to make decisions differently. And I can explain, if somebody is in a certain stance on something and they're not open to growth and listening and growing and the possibilities of being wrong, you know these people. Remember your 2 people right now that I told you earlier? They feel threatened by the success of others. They see effort as fruitless. I did not coin that. That's hers. This effort word. They see it as fruitless. Like, that's a waste of time. Knock, knock. Yeah, I'm selling a water filter. I know you don't want to buy one. You want to see it? I told you it wouldn't work. They ignore useful feedback. If you want to hear Elon Musk, the number one thing he says is that negative feedback, the biggest thing I took from him this year was always assume you're wrong. And your goal is to find out how to be less wrong. The minute you put that in your mind and you're walking up to somebody, you're literally listening because you're on this journey to find out where you're wrong. Does that make sense? Yes or yes? They avoid challenges and they give up easily. A growth mindset desires to learn, embraces challenges, believes intelligence can be developed, persists in the face of setbacks, sees effort as a pathway to mastery, learns from criticism, and finds lessons and inspiration from others in success. Who wants a copy of this slide deck? Raise your hand. We'll make sure you get a copy, right, Mark? Because all I want you to do is take this to somebody and help them. And give it to them to somebody to help them. Make it your own, it doesn't matter. But ultimately, these are just truths. And if you know someone that has a fixed mindset, the best thing you can give them is to become in the growth mindset that y'all have already demonstrated that you are because you wouldn't be here. But it doesn't stop. You have to always be growing, right? I mean, it's by the core of the word, growing. When you stop, you're not growing, right? So let's do what we called as the mindset diagnostic. That's not a real trademark, but I put it there anyway. I'm going duly on the record that it's being done today. So how do you face challenges? Do you avoid them or do you face them head on? When do you feel smart? When I do something that someone else can't? Or when I work on something and figure it out? When do you feel smart? Oh, you don't know how to do that? Oh, I know how to do that. And is that where you get your feeling of smart? Or when you tackle a problem that people are not understanding and your effort is so high you get to the point of knowing and so you figured it out? Is that what makes you feel smart? Is that what gives you that positive energy? When you're faced with resistance, what's the little voice in your head saying? Is it saying, man, I'm failing at this? Or is it, man, I'm learning a lot? Does that make sense? And when other people around you succeed, do you feel like, man, defeated? Or do you feel like, man, if they could do it, I know I could do it. I'm so excited. I need to talk to them. Right? All right. So the mindset diagnostic trademark, when you have invested where others have had success but you haven't, what do? Do you cancel what you were doing and say it's a waste of money? Or do you ask the good questions and be open to learn? The reason I put that slide there is I really, truly has nothing to do with real estate. One of the best investments that we use here, a guy told me, a tool that we use, that we had we've had huge success running in AEA with the Infusionsoft tool. It's been amazing. And there was a guy that told me that it wouldn't work. We already had something else. He knew someone that, all of this stuff, right? When it wasn't true. And it cost us a year. I think that would have been 2007. It cost us the year 2007. I think we became in 2008, or I believe that's the way that it added up. But, there's so many times that we're doing something, technology, and we're in the face of confusion, uncertainty, anxiety, want to quit. I know there's just a better way someone figured this out. But ultimately, for me, I get personal satisfaction on trying to figure it out, because I believe if someone else can do it, I can do it. And so I don't know what you're doing in your business, but this also came into my mind when I hear people say, oh, I tried expireds. I tried for sell by owners. And I've just seen so many people have great success, and they say, well, that doesn't work and that doesn't work in my market. From the mindset diagnostic case, I had to put the question on there, because you have to ask yourself, and I knew that was a story that would align with somebody, is why does somebody else have success with something and you not? And why then in the face of that do you blame it? Did you really put out the effort? So the simple 4-step process to maximize our full potential, this is fast and we'll end on this last part, is we know that the potential of what anybody can do selling real estate is extraordinary. The market has already demonstrated that. It's not up for debate. Whether what the potential is, the opportunity is. It's proven. The fact is, it's what you think your potential is. So people who don't maximize their full potential think that their potential is low, and they start here. Then they go, because they don't think the potential is high, and I've seen this in myself and other people, so I know it's irrefutable, is that when you think your potential's low, you take little action. All right, you kind of put your toe in the water. And then what happens is, what do you think happens when you only put your toe in the water? Do you get massive results or little results? You get little results. So guess what that does? It confirms your belief. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. You have to start with believing. That's the point. Because you'll never even go and get your full potential. You won't even know what it is. And so if you start with believing, then you're going to basically go in and tap into what is basically a potential you might not have ever even realized. I mean, when you think the way that, it's not hard to be motivated. Maybe, I mean, I didn't try to make the connection. You know, it did feel like I was splitting the atom. This might be easy for most, but to me it was like trying to uncode the things that worked for me and seeing the truths and the principle in other people. And I know that when I got into real estate, Jay had sold, in April of one year, he had sold 92 homes in 1 month. What do you think I believed was possible? What do you think my beliefs were? You think my beliefs were big or small compared to everybody else in my market? So what do you think I did? I took massive action. I listed a house my second day to someone who didn't speak English by translating through their 5-year-old because I was knocking on doors in the morning. I just wanted a boat. You saw my truck. I had a lot of work to do. So you saw my results. Is that helpful for anybody? Yes or yes? So there is a process, and you have to understand where you have to start. It all starts within you. It all starts. I walked off stage one day. My wife's here. I'm sure she said she never seen me cry there, but I did cry on stage. Only a bit. I got off quick. But I was trying to talk, like I said, why do some people believe in, and I actually erased that memory for an inside joke. But I did because I was trying to articulate to why did this guy believe and why do others like who have so much potential not believe? And that was a struggle for me to understand. So, you know, just understand that, you know, what you believe is very important. This is a quote from Darren Hardy. Everything you need to be great is already inside you. Stop waiting for someone else or something to light your fire. You have the match. It's already inside you. You just have to find the effort, and it will come if you believe. So my challenge to everybody today at EGS is I want you to get clear on your goals for being here. Right now, I want you to write it down. What is your goal? Jay went through the stages. There's a roadmap. We're trying to help you get clear. Get clear. It's already possible. You have to believe your potential is what it is. You have to believe. You have to get clear. I challenge everybody To believe that not just in growing their business, I want you to really Google it on your phone. Go look it up. Look at what exponential means and understand people have actually experienced that. And if you understand the effort that went into naming the Exponential Growth Summit, it was for a reason. And so I want you to believe that not just growth, but exponential growth. I challenge you to believe that your potential is limitless. And I challenge everybody here today to take massive action. I promise you the results you will experience if you take my challenge will be exponential growth. Thank you.